calling you Lurut. There's a Kenyan politician called Lurut. Yours is Lurit, eh? Thank you. My brothers, are we ready? Tuko pamoja? Let's be up and rising. Do we wait? Okay. My boss, instructing boss, was raising her hand, but let's do the anthems as we wait for the rest to come in. Ndugu, Kenya National Anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu.
Thank you very much, asanteni sana. Merci beaucoup. Let's have our seats, please. I will be leaving you in the good and able hands of this lady from Kenya and South Sudan. We claim her. The South Sudanese will tell me no. So Lurit will be presiding over. We welcome you for the final third day. I hope we are going to send it off with a big bang, with a little bit of Kenyan energy. Tuko pamoja? Tuko sawa? Nous sommes ensemble? Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Lurit. Makofi kwake, I am trying to make the regional cooperation a little bit closer. So if you don't clap for her well, you're going to mtaniangusha. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Habari za asubuhi. Sabah al-khair ya nas. Aha, great. That's the farthest I can go. But it's great to have you here for the third day of the East African Civil Society Summit. I think the last 2 days have been very interesting as we keep hearing different perspectives on how we can redesign regional integration to work for us. So today is day 3, and I can see people in very nice African attire. For those who don't have it, I can see you've tried with the necklaces and the earrings and everything. And it's great really to just try and do that. So I'll just do a quick check. People from DRC, are you in the room? Great. People from Kenya? People from Burundi? Great. People from Rwanda? Oh, very nice. Somalia? Which country am I missing? South Sudan? Great. Ethiopia? Which country am I missing? Tanzania. I thought you would shout on my behalf, but it's great. Is there any other country that I've missed? Uganda. How can we miss Uganda? Can I see people from Uganda? Great. Now today I'm going to give, have I finished all the countries? Is there anyone who does not feel well represented? I think we're well represented. So today, Madagascar. Wow, great. Anyone from Madagascar? Sir, is it you? It's not you. Wewe ni wa Tanzania, si ndio? Okay, great. Now, we're going to have an interesting task today. Everybody from each country will be working closely with the DJ. At least we need to have one song playing from each of your countries. Okay? Are we in agreement? At least each country, we have to hear one song from your country. So we've tasked you to go to the people from your country, decide on one song, tell the DJ about it. Please feel free to write it on a small paper and pass it to him. But that's what we're going to play through the day. Then, today, again, is about regional unity, citizens' voice, and cultural celebration. We want to hear, what does regional unity look like for you? So by the time we're ending the day, we need to know, what does DRC think about regional unity? What does Tanzania think? What does Kenya think? What does Uganda? And so on and so forth. What do you think about regional unity? And how can we make sure that we embrace our diversities in this conversation, but also think closely about the things that unite us? So today's program is going to begin with a very tiny recap. Today it's very tiny because we're just going to have three voices to hear what you may have thought of yesterday or what interesting thing you'd like to say about today. And then we move to the keynote presentation, which will look at the current global trends and the future of CSOs in EAC regional integration, which will be done by Brian Bright Kagoro from the Open Society Foundations. And then we will have a bit of discussion about our cultures. And this one, I don't know if we'll pick at random, but we'll decide what we're going to do for that segment. But we're going to hear what each and every one of you have to say about your countries. And then we'll have a few opening remarks and reflections from some key institutions. I'll tell you more about that as we go through the day. And then if you look at, if you scan the QR code at the back of your tag, it will lead you to the website of the conference. And that's where you'll see interesting elements such as the CSO Summit Communique that we talked about yesterday. Some of us call it Communique. In case we are not on the same page, it's the same document. That's going to also have some regional recommendations. And then we'll have remarks from the IACSOF president. And we'll have other discussions that will come after. And then we close the day. So we'll be closing the day a bit earlier than all the other 2 days. So at least by the time we're going for lunch, we'll be done with here today. Does that sound good? No, the energy has to be very strong. You know, today is the last day of the summit, right? So let's just move quickly into the recap session. Are there any hands of anybody who would like to tell us? Today's recap is going to be very interesting. You'll tell us your name, the country you come from, and feel free to tell us something you've learned from the 2 days that we've had. Are there any hands in the room? Amazing, I can see one here. Another one? Please raise your hand as early as now so that when I close the recap, you don't say that you are not considered in this segment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to say it? I think you should say something. I'm looking at your African dress and I'm thinking you should say something. On this side? On this side? No one? Uganda. There we go. We can have those 3 voices. Can begin.
All right. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to everyone. My name is Abraham, and I'm from Ethiopia, but I'm not representing Ethiopia, so I don't know. Yes, and I'm not wearing a cultural dress, actually, because I didn't carry anything, so that's why. But just on the recap, the 2 days, yesterday especially for me was the day I really contextualized by what we discussed a day earlier on the digital aspect. You know, there were discussions on interoperability and how legal frameworks, policy frameworks need alignment across the region, between countries, so that we can really work on regional integration, and it's easier. And yesterday, when we were discussing about regional and continental instruments, I really saw that these instruments will be helpful in regional integration. And there was also a question from a sister. I don't know. I can't look at her today, where she asks, why are we or why are our countries all not on the same page when we're discussing the AU Convention on cross-border cooperation? It was only Kenya that has ratified, and she posed a really nice question of why this is. And we have also seen the role of civil society and what we can really play in the advocacy for these instruments, so that we can really work towards regional integration and also harmonization within the national systems. What also really stuck with me was what one of the panelists said, Ms. Gertrude, I don't know if she's here, where she says the local governments are the missing link. And you know, the PS from Burundi yesterday was saying we shouldn't see or we shouldn't consider civil space and public space really divided. They complement each other. And that complementation need not be only on the national level if we are to achieve a regional integration, but it has to go all the way down to the local governments, and we should also start including local governments in this kind of forums as well. So those were the two highlights that really stuck with me, and I really think this kind of forums also should create the linkages. Thank you very much.
Bonjour tout le monde. Moi, je m'appelle Saina Kiprotich, and my French has ended there. So the two-day event has been one of the eye-opener, especially the role of CSOs in promotion of good governance, democracy, as well as regional integration. One of the takeaways, especially yesterday, was that the space and the operational environment of CSOs is increasingly becoming unsafe. And also the media is increasingly being under attack by state operators. And this is one of the things that we should really reflect on, especially balancing the state security as well as the freedom of the media, freedom of the individual, and the respect to human rights. So looking at the two-day convening, these today present us as an opportunity to now look forward to what really is the, or what, how does the future of CSOs look like, and coming up with the more of a voice among the member states or the CSOs in the East African region to really voice the concern and make the region a safe space for the civil society. Thank you very much.
We're going to Uganda.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It's like Madam Moderator doesn't know that I come from Kenya. Madam Moderator, I'm not from Uganda. It's fine.
It's okay, you can proceed.
Thank you. The two-day event has been so wonderful, but my take is for yesterday, especially on the women engineers. I was so happy by their presentation when we had things like how they could mentor our young girls and how they could go even out of their way and encourage these young girls and tell them that being engineer, it's just that you have to remove the perception from you that it is possible. So I am actually challenged, and that is my main take away from this event, that when I go, I can also talk even to a young girl who is just turning 6 and just starting PP1, that it is possible, it is doable. The great things the women engineers are doing out here, they can also do. Thank you. What I missed is our Kenyan, our flag. Such a colorful event without our flag by the sides. That one I really missed to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Uganda.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
I am Sarah Lea Diana from Uganda. Uganda is a rich country in diversity. We have about 54 tribes, and each tribe has a traditional wear. This is just one of them. Yes. What I took away, I was in the same room with my sister from Kenya. The women engineers were so amazing, and their mentoring each other was so amazing. We got a case study from Kenya, from Engineer Beatrice. Are you from Kenya? Where is she? She gave us a good case study where girls are being mentored after school, and I saw this was a very good learning, and how we can teach our children that sciences can be done by both the boys and the girls. And that was so inspiring, because from our roles, cultural roles, gender roles, we choose subjects for our girl children to go and do the arts, the social sciences, and leave the space that we really need to support. I also thought about accessibility when the engineers were speaking. As a person living with a disability, universal designs are very key for persons with disabilities to be included, especially in the area of architectural development. And this is what I took home yesterday. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other hand? Okay, the mic can just go there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Naomi Wamboi. I'm from Kenya. The key takeaway from yesterday, from the conversation of benefit sharing in the mining industry, there's a very impactful quote I got from there. If you're not part of the conversation, you will be the meal. So I feel like that transcends into the whole conversation we've been having with CSOs. We should strive to be always part of the conversation, otherwise we will be the meal. Thank you.
Okay, great. Now, there's an interesting conversation that's about to start today. So I'll do a quick touchdown of the 2 days that we've had, and then we move to a segment where Mr. Edmund will come and speak a lot about civic space. So day 1 was dedicated to digital transformation and data-driven advocacy. So we had a lot about what's really happening at the global level, at the regional level, and at the national level. We had our keynote address that talked a lot about what East Africa's digital future will look like, what data literacy will look like, and the conversation we need to have to make sure that regional integration works through innovation, technology, and inclusive digital governance. Then there was the conversation on responsible AI and data governance. If I may just ask with a quick show of hands, how many people use ChatGPT? That's a lot of people. How many people use Twitter? How many people use LinkedIn? How many people use Google? How many people use SMS? How many people use WhatsApp? Facebook? Wow, you're on all digital platforms. This means that it's actually important to have conversations on data governance and how we are using the digital sphere and technology. Again, we had the conversation on multi-stakeholder partnerships, what transactional partnerships look like, what integrative ones look like, and what transformational ones look like. And I think we came to an agreement that we need to steer transformational partnerships in our conversation. Then we proceeded to the conversation on the breakout room sessions. There was one on harmonizing EAC agricultural policies to support CADAP implementation and promote agroecology. Would we be eating? Would we be doing all these things? And you see, the fact that we were able to make it relatable made it even easier to understand the role of agricultural policy and the idea of agroecology. Then there was the Kenya National CSO consultation session that took place, as well as a session on a dose of inclusion, right? When we began the first day, a lot of people said that inclusion has to be the most important part of our conversation. Yesterday was about regional integration, social inclusion, and resilience. We began the day by talking about something interesting, which is barriers to bridges, the role of civil society in cross-border cooperation for a sustainable peace in the East African community. And you had very interesting questions on what a peaceful EAC region would look like and how we can support countries to make sure that they're gearing towards peace. We talked about frameworks such as the peace and security architecture and any other critical policies that have existed with that front. Are they being implemented? What is our vision for peace? There was also a lot of question about how CSOs can come in to make sure that peace and security is adhered to within the region. Then there was the conversation on public finance management and governance in East Africa. As we think about conversations on regional integration, how we allocate resources, how we use those resources, and how we finance our development priorities matters a lot for what the success of regional integration. Then we had another plenary. So here we had the privilege of merging two plenaries. The first one talked a lot about media freedoms during protests in East Africa. We've seen the year 2024, 2025 being very interesting years in terms of civic action. We've seen the protests in Kenya, we've seen other countries coming up as well to support the conversation, and we've seen a lot of discussion of what really freedom looks like. Freedom of expression, civil and political participation in the context of national security. And here we had a lot of live interactions. Journalism came into the conversation, citizen engagement came into the conversation, government participation came in as well. Within our breakout sessions, we had one on women engineers powering East Africa's future through innovation and infrastructure. That was a very interesting session because the realities of women engineers came out very clearly, and we were able to see representation across South Sudan, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, almost all the countries, which means that there's space for everyone in every country, and that cross-exchange was very important as well because it told us what women engineering are really doing and how they're powering East Africa's future. Then the conversation on transparency and equity, rethinking benefit sharing in East Africa's extractives. Have we seen gold in all the East African countries? We say that there's gold in each East African country. Would we say that there are other minerals in each East African country? Can we confirm it? Yes. We confirm it, right? So it means that the conversations about the extractive sector is very important because we're trying to have the value additive countries. And as we engage even in trade of all these minerals and other elements, we need to think a lot about how our countries are governing these minerals and any other dynamics within the sector. Beyond that is the idea of benefit sharing. What does that look like in the East African region? It's important questions that we need to reflect on. Then we moved to breakout session C, which was about harnessing adolescent leadership to drive ASRHR, and rights, budget, and policy changes in Kenya and Tanzania through diverse approaches. Especially we're thinking about inclusion, we're thinking about how RHR, which we're looking at in this conversation, we're saying that it's youth shaping East Africa's democratic future. If I may ask an interesting question in the room, how many are Gen Zs in this room today? How many are Gen countries? How many? Everyone, I can see you're there. I can see there. You know, we shouldn't be shy about generations. But still, everybody fought for a cause for some reason. But here the conversation was about the democratic future. How do we make sure we are all participating in how we select our leaders and hold them to account? Yeah? Are we okay, Kani? To come and talk about civic action. Thank you. Round of applause. Until he reaches here, we're just going to keep clapping. Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to everyone. Today I'm typical South Sudanese. To my fellow Kenyans, you have stolen the flag before us. You know this flag was originated from South Sudan. So please, let's share it. We have put the star. So Kenyans, we are one. And I know you are running in advance and you put up this flag, but still are proud of it. We will not leave it go. So, good morning to everyone. I just want to pick a moment. Yesterday, I want to make an interjection. There's no time, as we were all yesterday aware. I have a thinking, colleagues, as a civil society movement in East Africa, this is of civic space. We need to take it from a background that we need to engage on it, on reality, that is one thing, but also in a constructive manner that it is, let me tell you by the way, one thing that if we are not to do is for us to keep quiet about civic space. That is the one of the worst value that we shouldn't do. So my idea is that I would like to bring forward a proposal. This proposal we tried in South Sudan, it worked, but I feel I want to lift this proposal to EAC. I was thinking, as a civil society, let us have our periodic civic space ranking. Since we have national chapters, let's try to rank the civic space in our capitals on periodic manner. Then we have conversation with our authorities. Because there's this culture that whenever we talk of civic space, the tendency of confrontation always merge to take dominance. We either confront the state or the state confront us, while whatever we want to do for the best interest of our citizen require an open and unrestricted civic space. So for me, this is really very important, that an idea that I want us to agree upon, that if we can do a civic space ranking on annual basis, we can rank at our country level, but also we can do a peer review. So it becomes an initiative that we keep on engaging with our government and speaking freely about the issue of civic and I think even political space, civic space will take with the political space. So this is something that I like to put as an idea on our attention. If it's possible, we can. The second thing that I'm a bit concerned, and I want to really bring forward, is the question of the early warning. We have never deliberated too much about it, and I'm really disturbed that our region, whether we like it or don't like it, our region is likely to be, I don't use the word bad attack, but our region is likely to be jeopardized by external actors. So as East Africans, if we don't take it, first after all, we have these new merging players that are coming forward. And some of them are really coming with a very bad destabilization agenda to our region. So as a civil society, if we speak, we need to see a peaceful EAC. The question comes, can we take responsibility on the early warning system? And we even can take responsibility on the early warning response. Because if you have early warning, you need to have also early response. So I think for me, there's something that I'd like to bring forward, that let's take it up. And really my fear is so much is that the gulf is extending towards EAC. And we have seen what happened with DRC, we saw what is happening in South Sudan, we saw what is happening with it. Because I have this feeling that peace is much more needed by our citizens, security needed by our citizens. If I'm not mistaken, if not only South Sudan, their families are so protected from the common citizens. Like in my country, they may not be in country. Most of them will be either in Nairobi, Kampala, or in London, while the common citizen that we stand for are the one paying the price of the violence. So if we can take responsibility over that, will be really something. We must, as a YACSOP, and I want to bring this to the attention of our leaders, is this issue of disability inclusion. We need to take it serious as YACSOP. Sisters from this particular sector, but I think as a YACSOP we need to take it. And I wish we should have an annual movement that we can really keep it up, whether any country can champion, that would be very, very important that we take it up there. I want to conclude, my final point is the extractive industry. Yesterday I was in the extractive industry discussion, and something that drew my attention, and I would share with everybody, is that East African community, we have huge, huge resources. But I don't know whether it's a blessing or it's a curse. Our resources are mainly at our borders. I don't know if you realize. We have member states competition over the border lines. If you investigate those competition around the border lines, are resource driven. It's not a question of land ownership or pushing border to a corner. No, there's the resources always we're competing for. And this is going to undermine the integration that we try to frame it to be citizen-centered integration. We need to really take responsibility in the extractive industry. And one of the things I was sharing with my colleagues yesterday in the extractive industry, that one thing I've learned from South Sudan is that we need to educate our communities in advance. The way how investors come to extractive industry, they frame corruption within the framework of the investment. And they don't deal with the people who are light like us. They deal with the giants. And you know who's giants, huh? Here in Nairobi, if I ask Kenyans, who are the giants? Who can come here and just chase that out of this room? You can put the category. They deal with those people. They don't deal with people who are common like us. And that is where our common citizens are paying price on this issue of investment around the extractive industry. They are being displaced. They're exposed to a very bad environmental health issues. So I think as civil society, let's take up this issue of the extractive seriously. So to conclude with, I'm really interested if we can pick up some of these points into our resolutions, and specifically the civic space. Because, to be honest, I'm coming from a revolutionary background. I'm a frontline defender. I don't entertain any fear. I'm ready to pay my price, my life, as long it's a price from our common citizens. I'm someone who, I don't beat around the bush. Because some of us, we are citizens, then we vote. When we empower them with our vote, believe me, we empower them with our vote, we empower them with our resources, so they take ranks, positions, but they want to dictate upon us as if they're the best citizens of the country. Some of our own citizens, when we give them responsibility in state institutions, as a security people, as a police, as a military, as a politicians, now they want to act on us citizens as if we have empowered them to be referees. That's a wrong practice. Don't blame the West for that. For me, it's the attitude of our leaders. Some of our leaders believe that as we have empowered them, that they are the referees of the citizens. Like in my country, we used to have a praise to our leaders. We say, if you restrict civic space, and if you want us to get approval for civic space like such event, the bush space doesn't need any approval. And that's why you see in my country, we keep on fighting each other, because if you close the civic space in the town, you can't close the civic space in the bush. The civic space in the town is with dialogue, but the civic space in the bush is with the barrel of the gun, with the bullet. We're coming. And our leaders, they know us very well. You close the town space, we're going to the bush space. In the town space, we talk, but the bush space is AK-47 talking. So choose, which one do you want? So for me, it's a reality. Because if today I'm a citizen, and I find myself I'm a director of national security in my country, and I want to dictate on the other citizens, who am I? Simply because of the rank? And how expensive it is to get the rank? Maybe in your countries, because you don't have revolutions, the rank is very expensive. You have to go to a college, to anything. For me, it's just a matter of jumping to the bush. You declare yourself a brigadier general, you buy the ranks in the bush, and then you come back. I feel civic space, we need to take responsibility, and it's something of common interest to all of us as citizens of East African community. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
Are we ready to take responsibility for civic space? I can't hear commitments. Are we ready to take responsibility for civic space? You guys, you don't sound like you're ready for it. Are you ready for it? You're always ready. Amazing. I like that energy. Do we have ongoing readiness in us? It sounds like we have it. Now, we're about to now begin the day with all the conversations that we set to have today. But DJ, there's a song I want you to play for me. That is a Luta Continua, but the instrumental version. Because we're going to replace the countries that are there with the ones in the East African community. Is there anyone who might know how to sing very well? I don't want to surprise you early in the morning. Is there anyone who's willing to join me here at the front to do a bit of singing? You look like you're ready to join me. No? No? Okay, DJ, are we able to get that? Evans, I'm about to ambush you to come and do a bit of singing. Evans will be selecting the next song. But colleagues, remember when we started the day, we said that every person has to grab a song from their respective countries and give it to the DJ. A Luta Continua. Umesikia the musician anaitwa Maria Makeba. For the meantime, is there anyone who would like to say something, by the way? I can see a hand from Morris. I can see another hand there.
Thank you, Chair or MC. I don't know how you wanted us to process that by the Honorable President of the East African Civil Society Organizations Forum. I know that at the point when we are going to discuss the communique, obviously we will be able to process some of this at that point. Treaty, which of course includes the issue of early warning. As I say, of course includes the issue of early warning. As I said, I think conversation around the continent is the place of the people in those processes. Unfortunately, for every conflict, it is the people who suffer the most, and by that I mean from the most vulnerable who suffer the most, and by that I mean from the most vulnerable within any community and any society. Those are the people who suffer the most in any conflict situation. Reverse that, you find that there are actually those who benefit from any conflict situation. You know, people forget, and we must keep reminding ourselves, that war is business. War is business. Is a market for guns, is a market for bombs. It's so many things that are interwoven into what we call the neoliberal system. It's about profit making, in other words. So we must always be conscious of that. Through what we would call track 2 diplomacy, people-to-people diplomacy, that is how we can bring in the citizens within these conflict situations. Now, what can we do precisely? Because we've had a lot of conversations around here and there are issues that a few colleagues will be putting around here, and there are issues that a few colleagues will be putting forward when we come to the communique. But broadly, we must be in a position as citizens to name and shame those who benefit from conflicts. The Sudan issue, for example. If everybody here is unscared, the way the president of IACSOF is unscared, then we must use this platform to start naming and shaming those people. Number two, if you are to have peace in any context, I know the DRC situation, for example, we have been ashamed as the African people. It is Qatar, it is Donald Trump, who are now bringing peace. They have packaged it somewhere. Now they are bringing it and they are launching it in DRC. We know peace does not work that way. It has never worked that way. You cannot have peace packaged like chips and sausage, right? And then brought to the people of DRC to eat. That can never happen. And that is why what we need as IACSOF is mobilization. In all these contexts where we have conflict, we must mobilize. We must name and shame. We must reveal the interests that are propelling those wars. Because if we don't do that, then we are just playing around. That is what I thought I would add to the conversation on peace and security and the question of early warning. Because even this early warning concept, you can warn and warn and warn and warn, whether it is early or late or in the afternoon. But if you don't tackle the interests that are fueling any conflict, you will keep.
There was a hand here, and then we can go into the. You also want to say something? You also want to say something?
Thank you so much. So for me, I wanted to reflect on the issue of telling our own stories as East Africans, yeah? So many of us have seen when like the Western media or the West is trying to tell our story around peace and conflict and how that is projected out there. And I'm connecting this to yesterday's conversation and day one's conversation on the digital technology and the revolution around it and role of CSOs. So I think even as we continue to have these gatherings, let's also focus more on, efforts and initiatives by individual citizens or communities in terms of telling their own story, so that not other people out there beyond our community are telling our story, and even worse, people outside Africa telling our story around conflict and the issues that conflict. But of course, importantly, what communities are doing to find their own solutions, because communities also have their own solutions. Secondly, connecting to what the previous speakers reflected on, more and more we need to also discuss issues that the issues that fuel conflict. For example, the intersectionalities between gender-based violence and issues around conflict, and also issues of climate change. I think also if we can use such platforms to highlight such issues, and then also have clear, solutions or pathways to solutions. Thank you so much.
Interesting on intersectionality and root causes of conflict as well. And the idea of documentation. The mic can come here to the front, kindly. There's one gentleman who would like to speak.
Thank you very much. I'm Yasin, again, from Goma, DRC. It would be unfair for me not to speak about peace and security, but also extractive industry, because this is really the core of the conflict that we have in Eastern DRC. First of all, I think I want to challenge IACSOF. I have a feeling that not only these platforms are very useful, very helpful. My brother have just mentioned how our story has been taken over by other people. East African, you know, we even not only IACSOF, but also the states have not done much. But for us as civil society organizations, we really haven't done anything. I have been working on so many advocacy papers demanding that we, again, I mentioned that yesterday, but to be sincere, if you look at the situation in Eastern DRC, we have not really had the solidarity that we should have had in real terms. We are really calling upon IACSOF to support us. My brother Rufungulo from DRC, Kinshasa, said like CSOs are not, we are there. And it comes back to what the chair has just mentioned. We are not giving up. We are really not giving up. One of the initiatives that we have done after the rebels took over Goma and the eastern part, the biggest part of Eastern DRC, we had to confront the leadership. We told them, because there were so many issues, of course, after the conflict, after the war, there are so many issues to really that happen, that occur, whether willingly or not willingly. So we confronted them. So we are there. My brother from brothers from Kinshasa, we are not giving up. Let's be there in those spaces. My first advocacy paper was to demand M23 to release humanitarian workers, because actually they had extended amnesty to the soldiers they were fighting with, the FARDC and Wazalendo. So what about humanitarian workers who were actually using only their advocacy voice? So we issued that advocacy paper. We engaged them constructively. Of course, there is a lot of animosity. There's a lot. The first thing when we met them, they were like, you guys, we couldn't believe you were here, because after all, you don't like us. And I think this is the narrative that we really need to change. We need to be there, talk to them. If you look at the minerals that are killing people in Eastern DRC, we convened a peace-building kind of workshop. Many of the people in Eastern DRC do not know how these minerals look like. Nobody. Again, as my colleague mentioned there, most of the minerals, I mean, it's the chair, most of these minerals are negotiated by cartels. The senior people, very big people that you cannot even reach. So in my opinion, I beg, we have the voice. We have the capacity to mobilize. We can mobilize communities. Please support us. Let's put these things in their proper context. Let's argue, let's present our case, and I'm sure we will be able to really put these things into, into their real perspectives. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. You bring in a lot of conversation around resource-backed conflict, and we've seen this happening a lot across the African continent, beyond the East African community. We've seen countries such as Sierra Leone experience the same challenges. And we are saying, really, as we keep thinking about, it's important to think about narrative building. How are we telling our own stories? How are we packaging the conflicts within our countries? How are we packaging our solutions? And how are we thinking about taking in a bit of space to really put knowledge out there? But also, I think I'd like to say that it's important to do a lot of experience sharing, bring out the when it comes to conflict, and that cross-exchange is very important, because we're able to learn and exchange as much as possible and try to make sure that we're all part of the conversation and figuring out solutions within our countries. Now, the moment we've been waiting for through the day, Evans has told me that our song is going to come right after this. So, or before, actually, why don't we all stand up and recharge for this session? DJ, is the song Aluta Continua ready? Feel free to even just play the original. I'll just butcher it a bit so that my voice doesn't sound unusual. I'm waiting for you to stand. I'm waiting for you to stand. Yes, 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 yes. And remember, we always have the inclusion clap within our day, okay? That's something that we always have to remember. So we'll have to alternate between the claps. DJ, we're ready for you. That's a great way to close this segment in the morning and transition into the next section. And I'm just going to invite my co-facilitator, Mr. Evans, to proceed with the next step. So you can have your seats. Thank you.
Yeah. Morning. Good morning. Told you you're in Nairobi, Kenya, and when you're in Nairobi, Kenya, you do it the Kenyan way, yeah? A little bit of energy. Huh? Good morning. Habari zenu? Bonjour. Thank you very much. I've seen a familiar face from the German embassy. Your Excellency, welcome, sir. Guten Morgen. We now add one more language to the diet. Thank you very much. The protocols. The German ambassador or his representative, the permanent secretary, Ministry EAC Affairs Burundi, the chairperson, the president IACSOF, members of the diplomatic corps present, our distinguished partners, members of the leadership of the respective IACSOF chapters, ladies and gentlemen, habari zenu. Mko salama, eh? We are about to listen to somebody I think we all know, a brother, a friend, a Pan-Africanist. And whenever Brian Kagoro walks into the room, you expect energy. So in accordance with the usual Brian Kagoro energy, we are going to welcome him with the Kenyan clap. Are we together? We remember it? Where's Macarius? Macarius will forgive me. Ile yako tutaendea baadaye. So please warm your hands and then let's do it the Kenyan way. Moja, mbili, Thank you very much. Is Brian with us? Is Brian able to hear us? As we wait for Brian, DJ, you can continue. Brian is joining us from South Africa, I believe. Technical hitches, we are going to resolve that in a...
I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear, thank you.
Okay. To the leadership of IACSOF and all dignitaries in the room, I must first of all apologize. I forgot that I needed to pay for the internet. I assumed that liberation had extended to free internet. And so having been away from South Africa for so long, I arrived only to discover that I tried to connect. That connection requires payment to the service provider. I have since remedied, but my apologies because I know it irritates concern moment where the concern is not and procedural fairness, but just and equitable outcomes. So within the context of the economy, it is not just how women and other people can be included. It is how women can become owners. Both civil society emerged in East Africa largely as a space where those who did not participate as owners in the economy seemed to converge. But it was also a space, and I do not wish to be disrespectful, and issue power. So the old preacher who came with a Bible under the notion that they were saving their people from darkness of their own tradition and culture did not see themselves as the agent of imperialism or colonization of their continent. Now, let me say this because it is important for you to understand this. There is nothing wrong with the struggles that you are fighting. But the struggles that we are fighting as civil society need a deeper consciousness. Those who come from the left will remember that left scholars used to say, those who own the means of production control the relations of production and determine the outcomes of production, which means the quality of labor, decent work and decent pay is not determined by civil society pleading with the employers. It is determined by the owners of capital. It is determined by those who own the means of production, the mines, the factories, who own the industries. Granted that it is important for us to focus on the administrative servants competing now for our land, our natural resources, that are competing to control our data. Which brings me to the false choices that have often been peddled by our governments, this false choice that have been peddled by international donors, false choices peddled even by ourselves. That fact that the struggle is this choice between race, ethnicity, gender, and etc. Fundamentally, the choice is whatever your gender as an African, whatever your class as an African, whatever your ethnicity, you are part of the global class of people being pauperized. You are part of the global class of people who do not own anything. You are part of the global class of people who are no longer wanted as migrants globally. You are part of the global class of people whose visas are being banned. You are part of the global class of people whose countries are opening up more and more for people to come and take. But you yourself, your body is not wanted. People want to come to your countries to see the elephants, the lions, the giraffes, the kudus, but they don't want you. All you are is a guide to your own wealth, but you are not a participant or an owner. I need to address this point because the role of modern civil society is not to become more efficient, is not to efficiency as a substitute of ideology. If you are not clear about what the outcomes of your power should be, if you are not clear about what your states should be in the globe beyond ethics, what is there beyond the cessation of hostility and violence in our countries, then you are not clear about what it means to be a Pan-Africanist, what it means to be truly liberated. Friends, transparency, accountability, security, and sovereignty are important, but they are only important if we appreciate why do we want to be peaceful, why do we want to be secure, why do we want to be sovereign, why do we want to approach our countries not as tenants but as owners. We don't have another spare continent. We have only one continent, and that is the continent of Africa. So how do we desist from being cabals of the literate who are echoes of the empire or gravesides of the revolution? How do we desist from purely being that group of people that can describe eloquently what is wrong with the president of Burundi, what is wrong with the president of Congo, what is wrong with the president of Kenya, what is wrong with and there may be many things wrong with all of them. They are politicians after all. But if all your advocacy were focused on what's wrong with the local managers of international relations and international capital, then you yourself are not conscious. Because at some stage, whatever your differences with some of those who manage the state, you have to find a unity of purpose to negotiate your citizenship in this world. Because it is not the flag or winning the Olympics. It is not winning tennis or winning a boxing match or a football match. It is not having a player in a leading English team that will matter at the end of the day. The fundamental question is, will we have in Kenya football teams? Will we have athletics teams? Will we have? Is purely the same as those who were the early missionaries accompanying the project of the colonization of the continent. I want to suggest to you that there is now a disconnect between yourselves, not with the movement of people who are unhappy, because unhappiness itself the beginning, early phase of consciousness. It is not the ultimate phase of consciousness. What is the ultimate phase of consciousness? The ultimate phase of consciousness is this. You have to determine what is your humanity worth. You have to determine what is your collective nationhood worth. You have to determine what is your Africanness and Africanhood worth. You have to determine what is your contribution to that net worth. It is not enough to have WASH in our informal settlements, WASH services. It is our own systems, mechanisms, and tools. I want you to understand, utilization of technology has caused the revolution. Utilization of artificial intelligence as consumers is not a sign of intelligence. It's not the future revolution. Africa will not be liberated from being at the bottom of the global system and ranking of nations and of continents as long as Africa thinks that efficient and effective utilization of technologies that it does not own, of platforms it does not own, is the space of liberation. There is a radical shift that's required. A radical shift that's required in civil society, a radical shift that's required in our own civil societies, a radical shift that's required in our academic institutions, a radical shift that's required in African philanthropy, a radical shift that's required in development. And that radical shift, friends, is why you are gathered today, future. If this civil society is indisposed or not preachers of leadership beyond this group of people in this room, pipelines of leadership who are not only articulate, but pipelines of the leadership who know much more than what I know about technology, who are able to, who are truly techies. Until the innovation becomes central to what we do. Until the problem we have is that we quote statistics we did not data in generations past that was produced to prove that the men were not as competent as men. We all know that this was nonsense. But because those who produce it have an agenda, the data that is entered into AI the data that therefore shows up when you go onto Grok is not entered by you. It doesn't reflect you. It is not about you. So your ability to utilize it and even present it using all sorts of nice infographics is not a sign. Yes, good managers, continent. And I want you to understand this. Continuous improvement is determining what is it that's truly a priority to you as an African, not simply in the defense of your paycheck. Because you can be a well-paid agent and servant of global agenda that has nothing to do with you. Things that will never liberate your people. Friends, if we are to develop, lastly, I say we have to invest in alternative knowledge. We have to invest in alternative resources. Civil society is not a space for us simply to come and do fashion shows, talk about what our little organizations are doing, talk about how our little countries are faring. The collective core. Why are these other spaces wealthier than Africa? It's because they've learned to deal with the three most valuable things that they have. Number one, they are people. They are people. They are people. Number two, they are data and their knowledge. If you don't guard it jealously, it is not possible to change narrative if you don't have a value for people. Because Che Guevara said every revolutionary is actuated by love. Love for people, love for a nation, love for humanity. So if you don't have a sense of what our people are worth, and you focus on only the politics of tragedy and failure, you'll become failure and tragedy conscious. And that does not mean there are no failures. In fact, there are failures in Europe and in America, but they will tell you still that it's the home of the brave and the land of the free. There are many people who are not free in those jurisdictions. What is that narrative that takes you out of going to conferences and only focusing on the worst things about? The people in government on the continent are less than 10,000. The people in cabinets and in parliament are less than 6,000. The majority of Africans wake up every day, the mamambogas, people like yourself, the workers, they are decent people. It's about time we started telling stories of decent people, of hardworking people, of smart people, of people who are changing their communities. But it's about time we stopped focusing only on the menial business of the small task and said, we are the generation that must do the big things. The factories won't be built by people who only want to steal and send away to Saudi Arabia, to China, and elsewhere. The factories will be built by you. The industries will be built by you. Finally, I want you to remember that ultimately the problems in our states are problems in civil society. Some of you have been in power in civil society for too long. Your institutions are dying because you have not moved on. The ideas of your institutions are as old as your own sense of tenacity for office. I want to suggest that those of you who've been in post for too long, those of you who've been around the mill for too long, please, can you graduate and become mentors? Can you graduate and start developing new leaders? Can you graduate and start doing things that are worth the while? Young people, I hear you say, it's the time for youth. It's the look. If your youthfulness is only age without ideological clarity, you are just a young version of the same decadence we have in 90-year-olds. Let me repeat. It is not just the energy of having a young body, because a young body is not the basis of any transformation or revolution. You could be a young agent of the empire. We want youth that are conscious, politically conscious, that the business facing the continent is not simply to center disagreement with their governments. The business facing the continent is to hold their governments, hold civil society leaders, hold religious leaders to account, but fundamentally to transform this continent from being a group of servants, from being servile, from being a group of people that subordinate themselves to other races, whether they are from the East, the Middle East, or from the West. We want young people who are conscious that they are here to finish what Nkrumah started. Young people who are conscious they are here to finish what Lumumba started. Not to engage in Jollof wars between Nigeria and Ghana, wars between Rwanda and DRC, wars between Kenya and Uganda. Friends, it's not time for jokes. We're not here to joke. If all young people are, if all you become is what we became, when we became liberated, it was important to have joy in the struggle. So it is our generations that began to turn our music, the same music that Miriam Makeba and others used for revolution. We used it now to demean women, to call women the B word, to call men the D word. And we got entertained in ourselves, the lowest we could call ourselves. And we said it was cool. The same music that Yuma Sekela, that Fela Kuti, the same music they used to champion revolution and transformation. Even our talents, instead of using them to dominate the world, as others did through Hollywood, and others did through their film and arts and etc. Build institutions as the Chinese have Confucius Institute. We used ours to hypersexualize our societies, to destroy children, to make drugs the most adorable thing, to turn our most productive force into alcoholics. We used ours to valorize violence. We used ours to valorize indolence. I want to call on the young artists, on the young creatives. I want to call on the young Africans. The answer is God, whoever it is that you believe gave you those talents, it was for a purpose. And the purpose is the creation of your people. And the purpose is transformation of your country. We cannot continue to take our best resources, if they are minerals, give them away for free. Our best resources, if they are sporting talents, give them away for free. Our best resources, if they are artistic talents like music and poetry, and we demean, debase them. We join the bandwagon where Africans, wherever they are, no matter how gifted, simply become entertainers for others. They don't build industries to become the new owners of wealth, to liberate their communities. Once they become what they become, they are removed from their communities. They are detached from their values. They are detached from their histories. How connected are you to your communities? How connected are you to your history? How connected are you to your future? Are you part of the new generation of freedom fighters, of liberators? Or are you just, as I always say, a mere echo of the empire, a mere servant of the class of people who won't change a thing, efficient in repeating the stereotype that Africans can't govern themselves, in repeating old racist notions that Africans are only corrupt? What are you? What will you be? Resources from amongst yourselves. If we don't raise resources that are independent of others, then for pittances, we'll continue to dance the dance of our oppressors. We'll continue to echo the ideology of our oppressors. So, the governments in the room, if you don't fund civil society, if you don't fund EXOF, who do you expect to fund them? If you do not invest in regional civil society, which citizens do you represent? If you don't invest in strengthening regional solidarity, what regional integration are you talking about? An integration to hand over your wealth to others? An integration to speak well to your donors? So it is important for governments in the East African region to put aside resources that will strengthen the things I've talked about. A civil society that's transformative, that will hold you to account, but will also push the parameters of knowledge. It is not enough to have governments that are not corrupt. We need governments that are connected to their people. I thank you all for indulging me, and I thank you all. If I insulted you, well, I am sorry. Until you change, I'll keep saying the same things. Africa belongs to those who liberate it. Africa belongs to the conscious, not the eloquent. Thank you.
Brian Tamuka Kagoro. Let's give Brian a warm round of applause. And where is Macarius? Your factorials. You will run here to show us how we do it. Or you can do it from there. Okay, look at her. So we are going to give him the African factorials. We follow the 3 factorials. So look at her, do as she does. Okay. Give us the example first and then we follow. How are you going to do it? Thank you. So we follow her lead. Okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. That was just the warm up. Let's do it properly. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1. Brian, thank you very much. I mean, every time you listen to Mr. Kagoro, you get provoked. He asks you questions. Whatever you thought you knew, you ask yourself, what have I been studying? What have I been trying to learn? And quick take from Brian's presentation, I had about 5 points. The role of civil society. It has changed. It has to continue to change. We cannot be part of a pauperized population, one that is civil, one that does not know where to go, the future. Brian, in fact, told us to be conscious about the people, to be conscious about the data that comes from this part of the world. I believe that's thought-provoking for particularly people in government. Brian also asked us a question. What is your contribution to Africanness? He also sounded the alarm, the war on warehousing of data. That's the next frontier battle. We need to think about data and the future of data. He also told us this, that if we are to develop, we have to set out deliberately to seek alternative resources. Thank you very much, Mr. Kagoro. I believe we'll be taking a couple of questions for Brian if he's still with us. I'll take about 6 questions for the first round. Can I see the hands up? My people on the floor, there's a lady there, there's another lady there. Those are 2. I need 6 questions. Let's start with the lady there. Brian, I hope you with us.
Thank you very much. Brian, thank you so much for that insightful communication. My question is about diversity and inclusion. I like the way you ended it. It is not for the eloquent, but the conscious. You talked about us being a guide to our own wealth and not participants. So mine is not a question, mine is an ask, a prayer. Your communication is so good, it's so rich. And my prayer is that you add persons with disabilities to this inclusion talk. Because I see you talk very well about race, about ethnicity, and about gender. But as you said, we have to be participants and not guides to our own wealth. I would like persons with disabilities to be participants and not guide or excluded persons or silent listeners or people that do not contribute to Pan-Africanism. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was the first contribution. We have a second question here.
Okay, thank you for the session. I'm Sharon Chepkite from Kenya, from West Pokot County. And, you know, as a Gen Z, often when we speak, people tend to see us as chaotic people who just want to protest, but we are not like that. We are people who are actually purpose-driven, and we don't chase activities. Rather, we chase impact. I've noticed in Eastern Africa, right now, we can say that we are a bit educated, maybe, some of us, and stuff like that, and we are very resourceful, and we have some youth-led initiatives that has been done at the local level. But our problem is young people who are leading these initiatives is that we do not have enough funding. And when we are engaged also, we do not have policies that are harmonize to favor us to work within the Eastern African community. Well, for example, in West Pokot we border Uganda, and if I have a product from West Pokot and I want to move from the border, it's called Amudat, that place. You know, there are a lot of restrictions, there are so many laws, and it is literally frustrating. I have to like give out a lot of money and stuff like that. Now, we say that we do not want to just be, you know, again, another thing, we are usually involved in some government processes and stuff like that, but mostly it's for prospect reasons. We do not have young people actually engaged in the key decision-making level of, you know, of power and stuff like that. And I was asking and requesting that young people, we are not just the beneficiaries of all these policies, all these projects, you know. We do not want to be just the beneficiaries. We are actually people who have ideas which are innovative. We have solutions which are present. Yes. And you know, for example, let me take a case study from these 3 days that we've been here. One of our young person gave us a clap, factorials, right? But again, there was another clap, the Moi one, which is an old clap that all of us are used to, right? But you know, she said that we will not be using the Moi clap. But what did we do, all of us, and we are the civil society, which are empowered, you know, we went with the Moi one, because that is what feels familiar to us. People don't see young people that we can actually do things. People want to be comfortable, you know, because we are used to that. So I will request that we change and shift our mindset from seeing young people as beneficiaries of these things, but also as people who can be involved from the designing and implementation, and put us in those decision-making spaces where we can actually effect change. Okay. There is nothing for us without us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's keep it very, very brief. We are running out of time. I see this lady here.
Thank you so much. My name is Kingwa Kamenchu, and good to see Comrade Brian and what he said. I feel like I'm very discombobulated, just really after listening to that. I feel I have been attacked. I feel I have been provoked, challenged, like a mirror being put to my face, and we don't get that all the time. So thank you so much for that, Brian. And I was just thinking, and I was like, what you've said was so rich, and it's a kind of thing that we need to have even outside of the civil society spaces. And Brian has been in this space for a very, very long time, and so even actually what I'm saying now is that I'm going to be reaching out to you, because we need to condense all this information, get it into book form. I think we've had this conversation before, and so I'll be reaching out to you on that. And just spread it wider. Why isn't this kind of knowledge in our education system? Like, why is it only in our small enclaves? And this question is not just in terms of, oh, civil society, nobody listens to us, but it's about where we are as a world right now. The world is in crisis. The world, there's such a crisis of oxygen, of air, a crisis of love, really. And we're seeing it in the West. And we, Africa, are the solution to all that. Okay. So I will be getting in touch.
Thank you.
Asante sana.
Thank you. The next, Lurit. I'll take two more, and we call it an end. Two more.
Okay.
The men, yes.
I think that was a very powerful keynote that has brought out very interesting perspectives. And Mr. Brian, it's really great to see you again on the screen. Every time you speak, I rethink my purpose as a Pan-African. My question to you is, based on everything you've said and conversations that have been taking place over the last 2 days and all the way to today, there's been some kind of consensus that geopolitics is changing, and it means that it's really redefining our role as civil society
It's defining how we organize, it's defining how we mobilize, it's really redefining how, it's shaking us up, that's the word. In your opinion, and based on the one and based on the different perspectives that you have as well, how do we maintain our cause as civil society in a world that is rapidly changing in terms of civil rights, political rights, economic, social, and any other kind of dynamics? How do we maintain that boldness? How do we maintain that fight? And how do we maintain our original programming levels in such a dynamic? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gender balance, I'll take these two gentlemen. The ladies, please forgive me. These gentlemen here, the gentleman there, short, precise. Those are the last two, please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. James from Africa to Africa Mediation, Congolese by nationality. Thank you so much, Bram. There's a lot of information that we get from your end, and thank you so much for that. But I want to ask about this civil society. These things that we have been talking about, especially in our country in Congo, there's any time frame, because we have been raising alarm and talking about this when it comes to mining. How you find the area that these investors are coming and take this mining, and people in that area, they are not benefiting. Okay. And we have been raising this alarm for a long time, how they can involve the community in that area, so that at least they can be part of this process. Okay. But it seems that our government and other stakeholders, they are not understand, or they are not accepting what we are talking about. Okay. So my question is, until when we'll continue talking about this as no change? Okay. So what is the next step in case of no change?
Thank you very much. The last question.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Francis Kerr. I'm from Ared. Thank you very much for your presentation. Mine is just to the civil society in this room. When we talk to civil society, we need to walk the talk. For example, like me, when I enter to any bus and I see a traffic on the way coming to collect money from the bus, I normally tell the town boy, just tell this guy to ask me money. Because in order to do away the corruption, civil society must take their space. Lastly, when we talk the minerals, for example in Kenya here, I've just come to discover that we have 50 blocks oil in these countries. And if you ask any Kenyans here, they don't even understand it very well. Yeah. As a civil society, we need to know where these blocks are, so that those are our resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going to have next, after Brian responds, Lillian will be coming up on stage. Then the President Yaxo will invite the German Deputy Ambassador to address us. That will be in the next 10-15 minutes. So Brian, over to you for the quick responses. I gather most of it were comments.
Yeah, so let me define two things. There are persons with disability. I didn't even talk about rural folk. Disabled persons, rural folks, and etc. The reason is I think that it's important for me to, it was important for me to define a collective vision. Until we're clear on that collective vision, that every African, irrespective of whether they're disabled or they are female, they are male, they are rural or urban, that vision is a vision. And I am conscious. I work in a lot of rural areas. So a lot of you, those who know me will know that I worked in development a long time. So I know how far removed from some of the things you call progress rural Africa is. And the reason why I bring this conversation into this room in particular is actually European organizations young white people who work in European organizations or in international NGOs visit rural Africa more than a lot of Africans who work in largely urban-based organizations. I need to say this, right? Therefore, they are able to describe the conditions in your countries better than you because you rarely go to your rural areas. And so I raise this issue because there is a new consciousness that's required, that 62% of the African population lives in rural areas. And in those rural areas, children with special learning needs, disabled children, elderly people don't have facilities at all. Gen Z. So I'm one of those Gen Z. So I'm one of those who I love to celebrate Gen Z, but I also love to challenge because let me give you some good news. Many of you know this. I saw Odhiambo and others in the room. You know this, right? In 1974, the Madagascan government was removed by protest by students. Those from Madagascar will tell you. The first government to be removed from power by the equivalent of its Gen Z was the government in Madagascar. But sometimes when these things happen, a vacuum is created. A vacuum of vision, a vacuum of perception, a vacuum of institutions, a vacuum of transformation. And that vacuum is always filled, as we found out in Tunisia, in Egypt, it's filled by the status quo. And sometimes the status quo that's worse than before. And so what is it that I'm asking young people to do? I'm asking you, they say in African languages, if you are going to eat an elephant, eat the grandfather, the biggest of them, you know? Don't eat the baby elephant. In this business of power, in this business of transformation, if you are going to have transformation, prepare yourself to understand economic transformation and the geopolitics and interest in it, political transformation and the imperatives in it, security transformation and etc. And also the interests that are attendant in it. And what is it that I'm saying to older people? I'm saying the Gen Zs will never get to fully understand security, mineral and industrial policy, how they work in real practice, if you don't give them the opportunity to participate. In fact, we're talking about Gen Zs participating in government, in civil society. I mean, that's why I was calling for the older guys to consider stepping aside and becoming advisors or mentors or something. Because in civil society, we tend to, the way we involve the Gen Zs sometimes is not the way consistent with the role we expect, a transformative role in society. I think that involvement is one thing, preparation is another. And there is a leadership teacher who says success is when preparation meets opportunity. The opportunities for transformation I discussed, but the preparation required to get to that transformation is something else. Now, here is the problem. And as rightly said, we have a problem that we have old people who want Gen Zs to become old in approach, in method, and etc. These are the same old people who must prepare the Gen Zs for the roles that they must play. And we have Gen Zs who are impatient with these old ways because they have not produced change. That's why I think Yaksov convince intergenerational dialogues, because I think between the Gen Zs and the older people, there is a synergy that's required between creative, disruptive ideas, disruptive innovation or innovative disruption, and systems. Because systems, whilst they must be changed, they must be understood. We in the left created a problem for ourselves. We were very critical of capitalism, very critical, but we didn't understand it. We were critiquing its caricatures, so when it changed, we didn't see it. and how it changed and its ability to morph. And then, of course, the Moi clap, I think that this reminds me of something that consistent repetition will produce the change you want. You will know in one of the Kenyan languages, they say, little puppies born on the same day don't open their eyes the same day. Like they'll open their eyes on different days. Please keep repeating the different clap so that we go beyond the Moi clap. And by the Moi clap, I think it's a figure of many things. Keep repeating different ways of holding meetings, different ways of organizing, different ways of convening, different ways of engagement. Keep saying it, keep repeating it. Get more people to say it if you want the change. Kingwa, yes to the book. And then geopolitics, how do we position ourselves? Look, way to position yourself. Way to position yourself is to start imagining what are those alternative resources, and they may be small, that will create. We neither look east, west, or south. We look forward. Civil society needs to be able to say we neither look east nor west. We look forward. Until there's a commitment not to be aligned to any particular geopolitical bloc, until there is an insistence that we are aligned to our vision as Africans, our vision as Kenyans struggle on their own. I think that IACSOF needs to mobilize solidarity for not just for issues that pertain to elections, but issues that pertain to sovereignty. And I've been saying for a long time now that free, prior and informed consent is no longer enough. It won't be enough to. The wealth of Nigeria is our shared wealth. The wealth of South Africa is our shared wealth. The reason why Europeans can produce all the skills that you need in order to decision for all the things you described. No single country. You don't have enough universities, enough skills in any country. So the pooling of resources to develop at expensive summits and then all other, the parliament and etc. Substantively, East Africa must mean the economy is coming together to produce wealth. I think that this is a struggle. And Francis, instead of talking about, I mean the transparency sector, I am in the health sector, I am, I like, there are new tribes, they are no longer Kikuyu, Taita, Luo, they are now health sector. I mean these new tribes, they're formed literally by donors. Because let me demonstrate, may be disabled, may come from an ethnic minority, may be energy insecure. The same woman may be subject of sexual and gender-based violence. The same woman may have poor access to wash services. So these tribes now split this woman's experience into these little new tribes. Friends, our people experience underdevelopment holistically. You work in themes, or collective problems, not as little themes, but as a holistic problem of underdevelopment, where policies are not only incoherent and not linked, because our governments also develop policies depending on which donor was funding which policy. And the process of coherence and integration of policy hasn't quite happened. You Gen Zs, you are the generation that will help us to move away from creating little atomization in new tribes based on donor integrating visions and versions of holistic development that integrate civil society thematic streams into real integrated impact in communities. And I think that on the whole, if you take nothing away from me, Wealth creation is an important aspect of poverty eradication. But you cannot create wealth without owning the means or controlling the means to create wealth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A round of applause for Mr. Brian Kagoro. Our time is well spent. Thank you very much. Can I invite, is Lillian here? Lillian Alex to proceed with the next stage. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Brian. It's quite, I know we are still breathing in from what Brian has just presented, so it's quite a mouthful to actually start speaking after Brian, and I had hoped we had his presence yesterday. Unfortunately, due to clash in schedules, he had to join us today. So then, thank you, Brian, for your time. We appreciate your wisdom, and we hope next time you'll be here physically, where participants will have the opportunity to engage with you more in person during the refreshment moments, and then we can see how we learn more from you. And just for purpose of historical memory of YACSOF, the first summit was actually an online summit, and Brian was the first facilitator for that summit. So I'm glad that now he's joining us again with the movement and is actually keeping up the spirit. So my role here is just to give you, I would say, a recap or more of a recommendation that has been generated for the past 2 days, and also to present it to the guests that we have from the German embassy, to just get a glimpse of what transpired in the summit since Monday. And I'll briefly go through these recommendations, and hopefully can be adopted and received by the East African community later. That is when we're closing. So this year's theme, beginning, that is, we were discussing about harnessing East African community citizens' potential and participation in regional integration processes, with the sub-themes on innovation for regional integration, that is advancing governance, economic growth, and social inclusion in the digital age. And as it starts, that is the East African Civil Society Summit 2025, convened over 200 delegates from all 8 partner states, including Democratic Republic of Congo and Somalia, together with representatives of government, civil society, the private sector, academia, and development partners. The summit was officially opened by Dr. Caroline Karangu, who is the Principal Secretary of the East African Community, Kenya, who was represented by Ms. Mary Maisori, who emphasized that integration is a shared responsibility. And over 2 days, participants assessed progress and challenges in regional integration through a citizen-centered lens. Kenya concerns included persistent non-tariff barriers, undermining the common market, and even digital transformation and shrinking civic space and media space. Delegates underscored that integration will remain fragile unless partner states harmonize digital governance, dismantle non-tariff barriers, safeguard civic freedoms, and institutionalize citizen participation under Articles 6D, 121, and 127 of the East African Community Treaty. The overview of the deliberations highlighted, highlighted corruption and illicit financial flows as entrenched threats draining billions annually, and with weak asset recovery and whistleblower protections undermining accountability. Border disputes and fragile peace persist due to poor ratification of cross-border frameworks, leaving borderland communities marginalized. Extractive industries were identified as a sector where host communities face displacement and exploitation, while benefit sharing agreements remain unfulfilled. The summit also focused on inclusion. Youth were recognized as drivers of digital activism and electoral reform, but continue to face structural barriers. Women professionals raised concerns about stereotypes and equal pay and limited leadership in STEM fields. Adolescents advocating for sexual and reproductive health rights exposed systemic neglect, underfunding, and discriminatory laws. Delegates concluded that integration cannot advance without transparency in resource governance, effective enforcement of anti-corruption frameworks, protection of civic and media freedoms, and the meaningful participation of youth, women, and marginalized groups in governance, trade, and development processes. Deliberation. One is on trade and non-tariff barriers, and then we have digital transformation and governance. Now, in purposes of time, okay, I'll be brief enough and just read a bit through. That is, the first one was on trade and non-tariff barriers. Delegates constantly underlined that NTBs remain the heaviest burden of common market despite commitments under the EAC Common Market Protocol. Secondly, digital transformation and governance. Discussions affirmed that digitalization is reshaping trade, health, education, and governance, but progress is fragmented. Thirdly is on civic space, human rights, and democratic participation. That is, civic and political freedoms were highlighted essential for credible integration, but remain under threat. Restrictive laws, shrinking space of media surveillance, and cross-border relations undermine democratic participation and accountability. Election observation faces arbitrary restrictions, while harassment of journalists and human rights defenders persists. Delegates stressed that freedom of expression, assembly, and participation must be guaranteed in the EAC to remain people-centered community. Fourthly was on cross-border peace and security. The highlights were unresolved disputes and fragile peace along borders continue to marginalize communities and fuel insecurity. Lack of ratification and enforcement of continental and regional frameworks weakens conflict management. Fifthly is on corruption and illicit financial flows, and that is next we have youth, women, and inclusion. And that is youth were recognized as next we have youth, women, and inclusion. And that is youth were recognized as critical actors in democratic processes, moving from digital activism to grassroots mobilization, election monitoring, and reform advocacy. Yet face barriers such as voter apathy, legal constraints, and exclusion of youth with disabilities. Next, we have persons with disabilities. That is, the comment was around discussions highlighted key barriers and solutions related to enhancing quality and access to health commodities for persons with disabilities. Validation on tools of evidence, and that the summit confirmed a set of instruments that strengthen accountability and embed civil society in the regional integration process. EAC Gender and Youth Compliance Barometer, the 2020 to 2024, that is an independent accountability mechanism for tracking progress, identifying gaps, and documenting partner states' performance. Secondly, we have CSO Engagement Toolkit, that is a practical guide providing structured approaches for civil society, women organizations, and youth networks to engage effectively in EAC processes. And thirdly, we have guiding principles for CSO's engagement in the EAC, a normative framework establishing minimum standards for transparent, inclusive, and accountable civil society participation in the community. Call for action. This is a call for actions to the governments of East Africa community and the EAC institutions. Delegates and participants call on partner states to ratify and implement regional conventions on cross-border cooperation and to establish effective early warning and rapid response systems that prevent recurring instability in border communities. Secondly, delegates and participants demand enforcement of anti-corruption laws with genuine political will, strengthening of asset recovery frameworks, and transparent use of recovered assets for essential public services. And thirdly, delegates and participants urge governments to repeal restrictive laws that shrink civic space and media space, enact legal safeguards for human rights defenders and journalists, and institutionalize election observation as democratic safeguard. Further, delegates and participants insist on the recognition of citizen election observers as human rights defenders with transparent digital and decentralized accreditation and the formal integration of their recommendations into post-election reforms. Delegates also and participants called for reforms in the extractive governance by aligning laws with the African mining vision, ensuring transparent contracts, and embedding enforceable benefit sharing provisions that guarantee host communities as fair return from natural resources. And also, delegates and participants reaffirm that the participation of youth, women, and adolescents must be institutionalized in electoral policy and budgetary disability inclusion mainstreamed across the governance frameworks. And finally, delegates emphasize the need for inclusive practices, including data collection and dissemination, enhanced policy alignment, capacity building of health service providers, and direct involvement of people with disability in all aspects of SRH and access to health commodities. Our humble request and call to action to the development partners present in the room. Delegates and participants urge development partners to extend support for peace building and cross-border cooperation by investing in sustainable local peace infrastructure. Secondly, delegates and participants call for predictable, flexible, and long-term funding for civil society organizations, particularly grassroots actors, and for financial flows to be rebalanced and so that local CSOs receive fair and sustainable support. Delegates and participants also recommend stronger technical assistance and capacity building for asset recovery, financial transparency, and oversight of the extractive sector alongside support for regional cooperation against illicit financial flows. And delegates and participants also emphasize the need for investment in civic tech and youth-led innovations that strengthen election monitoring, combat misinformation, improve digital literacy, and expand access to inclusive SRHR information. And finally, our call to the development partners is delegates, participants call for the summit to be recognized as a strategic accountability platform with annual investment guaranteed to sustain its continuity and impact. The East African Civil Society Summit 2025 reaffirms the integration cannot endure without transparency, accountability, and inclusion. Peace must be secured across borders, corruption must be confronted with political courage, civic and media freedoms must be guaranteed, natural resources must serve communities, and citizens must be recognized as the foundation of legitimacy. The call for civil society is clear. Integration in the East Africa will only succeed when it is owned and driven by its people. The pain of one citizen is the pain of all, and the progress for one partner state is the progress for the entire community. Thank you.
The President Yaksov, welcome.
Colleagues, allow me to take this time to invite the Ambassador of German Embassy in the Republic of Kenya. I know time is back for him. Your Excellency Ambassador, you're most welcome. We thank Germans through GIZ support. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Government representatives, representatives of civil society, GIZ, and all the participants. EU is here as well, yeah. Actually, I have prepared a speech, but after this very inspiring contribution by Brian, who just spoke 10-15 minutes ago, I think I also have to divert a little bit from my speech and maybe give a few comments to what he has said. I hope he's still online and can hear, and I would also like to invite him once he's back in Kenya to actually get in contact with me, and I would love to have a dinner and continue this discussion. 99% of what he has said is absolutely what also I feel. I don't have much experience in Africa. I've been in Kenya for 2 years. I've been in Ethiopia for 4 years. that is already 20 years ago. But of course, being born in Africa, being part of this society is something different. So my comments will be very humble and rather from a European perspective. So first, I wanted to say what Brian has said about the European Union and the question, can we be stronger if we unite, if we have regional blocks and that look where are our common interests, how can we defend our interests better? I think that is something very, very important. I mean, and you have the institutions, there's the African Union, there's the East African community, many other African institutions, and it's great that you as representatives of the civil society come together and also foster a Pan-African idea, which I think is very important. Second remark I wanted to make is, if we talk about the extraction of natural resources, and Brian also mentioned the extraction of human beings, so migration, I think we should not discuss about those against us. They want to have our minerals, and they want to have our talents, and it's to the detriment of our societies. Let's see where our interests overlap, and let's work on that. Germany, for instance, is investing a lot in green hydrogen from Africa, and I don't see any disadvantage in that for the African continent. It's a win-win situation, so we need to create those win-win situations. And also, if we talk about skilled labor migration or labor migration in general from Africa to Europe, Germany, for instance, needs foreign workers, but not only from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from South America, from many other countries. But we rather see it as a win-win situation. We don't extract, in most cases, we don't extract highly educated talents from Kenya, but we invite people to come to Germany to have their education there, be it a university education or be it a training as a nurse or as an electrician, work in Germany for a few years, and then if they go back to Africa, bring in their knowledge, bring in their competences, and then also contribute to the development of this country. The transfer or the remittances sent from the diaspora, from the Kenyan diaspora back to Kenya, is the single biggest income of foreign currency in Kenya, more than tourism, more than agriculture, and so on. And I don't see any. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's actually something where both societies can benefit from. If, like in Kenya, you have every year 1 million young people entering the labor market and only 200,000 can find a formal job, I don't see a bad thing in it to invite other people to go to other countries and work there for a while. These are ambassadors of your country in our country, and when they come back, they can also be ambassadors of my country, of Germany, in Kenya. So we build also bridges that way. So rather than saying this is ours and it's our, let's say, we need to we need to look after our resources, and we don't want foreign countries and foreign big companies to actually intervene in that. We should rather look where do we have overlapping interests, where do we have win-win situation, how can we create them, and then work on that. And that's and it's absolutely fair if you say, no, we don't want to have this oil company in our country, we don't want to have this mining company in our country because they don't offer fair conditions. So send them away. I think that's fair enough, but let's also see where we have common interests and we should work together. And if Brian also talked about there's no foreign actor coming to Africa without interests. Yes, that's true. But our interest in Europe is that Africa is a stable country, a wealthy country that can prosper side by side with Europe. Because we think if there are more people in Africa who can afford a German car, that's good for us. And if the green steel that we need for our cars is produced in Kenya cheaper than in, I don't know, in Eastern Europe or so, then that's fine enough. So we will buy the steel from Africa. So we can find these common these common goals and common objectives, and I think that's much more important instead of saying this is ours and this and we always have to be suspicious about the interests that foreigners have in this country. Yes, there are definitely people who will and there have been in the past who did not good things to Africa and to Kenya and other countries. And then it's clear that you have to reject that, but in case of overlapping interests, I think it's important to work together. But what I wanted to say before I heard this very inspiring words of Brian, as I said, with many, many true things, I think civil society has become more important than ever in this global world, and I think every new political initiative, every new development, be it protection of climate, be it I don't know, workers' rights, be it also in the field of peace and security, it always comes from the civil society. So a few years ago we had the Fridays for Future demonstrations in Germany, for instance, but also in other European countries that were really fighting for a tougher climate policy. And if you have thousands and thousands and hundred thousands of people in the streets, then politicians will react. We had the same, you can't compare it, but a year ago we had the Gen Z people in the streets here in Kenya, and also this year again. And if you listen to speeches of Kenyan politicians now, they always talk about young people, and we have to do something for the young people. You will not be satisfied. You will still think, well, this is the old elite, and we have to come up with new people that protect our interests. Yes, but it's a small step forward, and it shows that what you do matters, and it matters also to politicians, because politicians are dependent on at least some sympathy of their population and some consent with their population. And even in countries where you don't have democracy, it's still the leaders look at their population and want to know what do they feel, what is important for them, and how can we put this into real. So I think it's more than ever important that you raise your voice, that you actually show what is important for the young generation, for the people with disabilities, for women. I see many women here in the room. That's great. That's really fantastic. And for the marginalized people. So we need to find more people who do that, and we have to support them. And this is also one reason why GIZ actually supported this conference, because we are convinced that in a world where the global trend is to shrink the spaces of civil society, we need those strong voices, and we need you to actually guide the way also for the politicians. And that's what happens in all countries. Voices in the society raise new initiatives, raise their voice, and then politicians will follow. And then you have elections where you can then also bring in your people, your leaders, to actually be elected. That's how it should be. So actually I haven't followed my paper at all, but I think that was more from heart than from paper what I said. So thank you very much listening to me, and very impressive to see you all here. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask us to do this very, very quickly. I will ask His Excellency to indulge us for 30 seconds. I'll ask the ambassador to indulge us for 30 seconds. We take quick photos. The YACSOF leadership, the Council of YACSOF, please join Your Excellency in front. We need to take these photos very quickly before His Excellency leaves. The PS Burundi, please join us as well. Photographer, please let's make this very, very quick. Then next in line after this lot will be the development partners. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, the Ambassador. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation and representing the German government. May I also convey the apologies of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, and the PS Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Singoe. They were unable to join us today due to exigencies of work, but nonetheless, the apologies have been conveyed. See you smiling. Lurit has just given us the authority to go and take tea, yes? So we're going to have a tea break for how long? Lurit says 20 minutes. So DJ, send us off as we go take tea. We'll be back here.
day 2 of the East African Civil Society Summit.
Welcome to the 3rd East African Civil Society Summit. It's great to have you today for day 2 of the East African Civil Society Summit. Welcome to the 3rd East African Civil Society Summit.
conversation on what independence would look like, what role we play as government, as civil society, as development partners, as academia, media, and any other stakeholders, and even just as citizens, really just the public. Beyond that is conversations on how do we tell our own stories, what narratives are we building, and how do we put information out there? Do we take pride in our innovations? Do we take pride in the things that make us who we are? Do we take pride in the things that make us Pan-African? Those are interesting questions I also want to ask you. As we think about regional unity, conversations has been about what our legal frameworks look like, what our policy frameworks look like. How do we organize amongst ourselves? How do we mobilize funding? What are some of the CSO strategies that are important in, again, this conversation? And I think it's time for us to appreciate that the digital age is here with us, which means that how we engage in this sphere is very important as well, because it determines how our countries rise. It determines how the continent comes together. It determines how the region also comes together. Again, is the idea of multi-stakeholder collaboration. It comes out from every conversation. We're thinking about sectors, but we're also thinking about the role of different stakeholders. We cannot talk about government interventions without talking about civil society, without talking about academia, without talking about media, and all these different groups of people. So we're about to reach the end of the summit this year, and it's been a pleasure to interact with each and every one of you. So for the segments that we're going to be having in a few minutes, there's just about 3-4 things that we'll be having. First is I want the communique to come back again, specifically within the call to actions, because we have to really own the call to actions that have been categorized within that document, because that is what we've been discussing for the last couple of days. That is what we've been doing. That is the conversation we've been having that has come there. And then the second part, we'll invite Mr. Edmund to come and give us a few remarks as well and speak to us. And then we're going to break into a bit of photo sessions where we're going to have about 3-4 photos. And then the last part, remember I told you that you have to select a song from your country, right? Right? Who's given the DJ a song from their country? I've had a bit of Lingala. I've not had the rest. The rest will come. Okay, great. So that's what we'll do, and then we simply just end the day. So, Madam Lillian, I want to welcome you back to the stage to reinforce the regional recommendations. Thank you. A round of applause.
Delegates and participants urge governments to repeal restrictive laws that shrink civic space and media space, enact legal safeguards for human rights defenders, journalists, and institutionalize election observation as a democratic safeguard. Next, we have delegates and participants insist on the recognition of citizen election observers as human rights defenders with transparent, digital, and decentralized accreditation, and the formal integration of their recommendations into post-election reforms. Next, we have delegates and participants call for reform in extractive governance by aligning laws with the African mining vision, ensuring transparent contracts, and embedding enforceable benefit sharing provisions that guarantee host communities a fair return from natural resources. And then we have delegates and participants reaffirm that the participation of youth, women, and adolescents must be institutionalized in electoral policy and budgetary processes, with disability inclusion mainstreamed across the governance frameworks. And finally, this is a call to action for governments, that is delegates, emphasized the need of inclusive practices, improved data collection and dissemination, enhanced policy alignment, capacity building of health service providers, and direct involvement of people with disabilities in all aspects of SRH and access to health commodities. Are we in favor of the call of action to governments? All those in favor say aye. Nay. We move. Thank you. Yes? Yes? Oh, okay, okay. Oh, there is a comment. Mike, can we get Mr. Morris a mic? Mike? There's no mic? Well, we have the documents that I read earlier that has all the recommendations that were discussed in the different sessions. And so right now what we're doing is the call of action for the communique that if we are in agreement, then this is what actually we release as a communication from this summit to the public and the media. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So for the regional, the first point you read, I did not hear anything about implementation. I only heard you saying to adopt or the language you used there.
Okay.
But the main problem we have, I think, in this region and elsewhere is actually implementation. So I'd propose that we also include implementation.
In the first comment?
Yes. Okay. Then, oh, there. Yeah, that would be useful. Though the eyes are also not very good. Then as the projection is done, on the point on election observers, the language used there is insist.
Okay.
Insist is very, yeah, it's not action oriented. Can we say something like commit instead of insist, so that we are talking about states committing to the recognition and accreditation of election observers?
Okay.
In addition to that, I do not know whether we are making reference to any standards. For example, on that point, you know the ACDEC standards. We worked with ACDEC, with the AXOF for quite some time. Yeah. So we need to reference that because it has very good standards when it comes to issues of elections and election observation. Finally, I did not hear anything regarding peace and security in what you've read, or is that coming after? Yet that is the big elephant in the room. Is there any resolution regarding the area of peace and conflict?
No.
If there isn't.
For the government's recommendation, no, but we can include that.
We can include that. I can work on something and then share. Okay, so I'll just work on a draft, and then as we proceed, I can share.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Morris, for the guidance. And yes. Okay. So I can move to the development partners. Now, this is the call to action to the development partners present in the room. The first one is delegates and participants urge development partners to expand support for peace building and cross-border cooperation by investing in sustainable local peace infrastructure. I think this is where peace and security was mentioned but was not included in the first part. And then secondly, we have delegates and participants call for predictable, flexible, and long-term funding for civil society organizations, particularly grassroots actors, and for financial flows to be rebalanced so that local CSOs receive fair and sustainable support. Thirdly is delegates and participants recommend stronger technical assistance and capacity building for asset recovery, financial transparency and oversight of the extractive sector alongside support for regional cooperation against illicit financial flows. Next, we have delegates and participants emphasize the need for investment in civic tech and youth-led innovations that strengthen election monitoring, combat misinformation, improve digital literacy, and expand access to inclusive SR/HR information. And finally, delegates and participants call for this summit to be recognized as a strategic accountability platform with annual investment guaranteed to sustain its community and impact. All those in favor, aye. Nays? There's a nay at the back. The ayes have it. But now if we did that, that means even Mr. Morris was not given the opportunity to present. Let's hear him. It's one nay, just one.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. The issue of funding of civil society, according to me, we need to compel our governments to set aside 1% of their budget to the civil society. Because when you look at civil society in the East Africa here, they are depending on donor funding, whereby some are on a vulnerable condition, whereby we know the civil society are playing the big role for our countries, whereby they are filling the gaps where the government cannot reach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that sums up his comment. Then, if you allow me, I move to the call for action to civil society organizations. Delegates and participants commit to strengthening cross-border coalitions to confront corruption, defend freedoms, and monitor extractive industries while deepening regional solidarity. Secondly, delegates and participants agree to use validated tools and regional research to drive evidence-based advocacy and ensure governments and EAC organs act on citizen-driven recommendations. Thirdly, delegates and participants pledge to amplify the voices of youth, women, and marginalized groups to secure their meaningful inclusion in governance and accountability. Next, we have delegates and participants commit to protecting election observers and grassroots civic actors through regional solidarity mechanisms, peer protection networks, and litigation where rights are infringed. Delegates and participants resolve to tailor civic education into youthful-friendly formats and local languages so that grassroots communities fully understand and engage in regional integration processes. I think that is as far as civil society call for action goes. All those in favor say aye. Nay, we have a nay. Yes. Oh, it was aye. Oh. Any nays? Civil society, don't have any other action points for yourselves? Oh, okay. Please. The mic is there.
Yeah, mine is amplifying the voices of the, we have mentioned women, youth, and marginalized group. I would really love to see people with disabilities being mentioned instead of covering them with the marginalized group. That is it.
That is not it, sir. Oh. Okay, Mr. President here.
Yeah, thank you. Around the youth, if we have, you say it's called what? The East African Youth Network. Is there anyone from them here? East African Youth Network. Is around. I think youth network.
Okay.
To sustain, because I'm really fan of the Gen Z's case study of Kenya, to be formalized, to become one of the best way of demanding accountability and transparency. So it's not be seen as an illegal process. Generations to come should be demanded, because next tomorrow or next week they'll be asking us, me, you, Lillian, and the rest will be in the government. So we should create that culture that they see that they have the right to demand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's it. We have none. Oh.
Yes, I think mine is like it is a question first I wanted to understand if there was something on environment, because I feel it should be an action from here that we are going to commit ourselves to act on issues on conservation of environment, to combat climate change as CSOs, and even biodiversity, especially the cross-border animals that crosses borders to other countries. Thank you.
Okay. There's one last hand here. Oh, wow. Okay.
Thank you very much. Mine is, I would say maybe it's a gap. When we were in the session regarding a cross-border cooperation, we all agreed in the room that we come from a local government. And I have not seen local governments featured anywhere in the call to action. I have seen something about local peace processes, but not who are going to be taking the lead on the local peace processes. So I think it's important that, as agreed in that session, we include local governments as partners, because we agreed that they are very essential in partnering with CSOs, but also when it comes to governments and ESC institutions, to make sure that all dialogues, deliberations, and the planning processes are inclusive of local governments. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was read in the call to action for the development partners, but maybe the word government was not mentioned. So we'll amend this. It reads, delegates and participants urge development partners to expand support for peace building and cross-border cooperation by investing in sustainable local peace infrastructure. So then the aspect of government maybe can be included in this. So I'm taking that into consideration. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I'm James, again from Africa to Africa, Congolese by nationality. I want to give a recommendation when it comes to budget allocation, so that as long as we have action plan for civil society, and we have this program that we want to continue doing it for our different countries and other stakeholders and partners when they are coming up with in the region.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay. Okay.
Yes, I also wanted to recommend to include in the communique the establishment or recognition of the East African Disability Network within the EACSOF. And this will guarantee the meaningful participation of persons and with disabilities, representation and leadership, as well as the organization.
That sums up Mr. Morris, and then there is one last person. I'm being looked at. I need to step out of this podium. So briefly.
Madam Chair, I'm ready with the proposals on the peace and security aspect. So the first one specifically targets South Sudan. And I will read as follows. The delegates call upon partner states to urgently name 2 heads of state within the bloc acceptable to the parties in South Sudan to immediately commence peace talks in line with the principle of African solutions to African problems. That is the first. Number 2, which targets Sudan and DRC. The delegates call upon the partner states to advise the African Union Commission to immediately take over the conduct of peace processes in Sudan and DRC in line with the principle of African solutions to African problems. The final one is now for ourselves as civil society. The delegates commit to organize people-to-people diplomatic processes or consultations to attain lasting peace in DRC, Sudan, and South Sudan under the leadership of IACSOF in line with the principle of African solutions to African problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That I think is well crafted. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Last hand, I believe that should be, you people here, okay. If I'm just, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. My name is James Weck. I just want to add something about the categories of marginalized, which I was expecting Baba Africa to say. It is about the children, boys, and the need. When we talk about budget allocation, the protection of children and their needs are also supposed to reflect from this communique. We cannot allocate women and leave out the children that are actually the generation that we are all here for. So that is my request, and I know that it is not reflecting. Thanks.
Thank you. Then the final comment here.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is a comment, especially the people call themselves marginalized people. As we have done a research, especially in our country here, Kenya, since we got constitution, this is now 15 years. But when we got the count of call themselves marginalized people, we have heard that people are misusing that word. They are taking advantage for their people, and that when they get the money, there's no any development in those counties. As a civil society, we need to take action on research, whatever the people are using the money for. People misusing the word marginalized things because it has become the talk of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think that was included in the call for civil society. Let me just reassure you, your comments are being included, the call to action, But just take note that this is not the entire communique. What I was reading was just the part for the call of action. So there is a lot, and if you had the opportunity to listen when I was reading a little bit rather quick, there's a lot that has been embedded here and a lot that has been summarized from all the sessions that you've had. So most of these issues most of you are actually presenting have already been included in the communique itself. I will request that our communications team actively upload this communique here, and for members to actually see most of these other issues that have already been addressed. I think onto the call of action, I take the notice of the pertinent issues that have already been included and will definitely ensure that they're part of that. So thank you for helping us craft it, and at this juncture I ask to finalize with the edits, which will be shared finally on the link, because I'm seeing Evans is looking at me, so I don't think I'll come back here and read them again, but I believe that they will all be finalized with your comments and we can be able to adapt them and share them publicly. I thank you for being with us and listening to us, and I thank you for the fruitful knowledge that you've brought on board. I think I never had the opportunity to say thank you, but for me, I'm grateful that we are all committed and we are all in support of this regional integration, and all together, I mean, we are all in support of working together in solidarity. I like the word that comes out, even Brian spoke of that, the issue about solidarity. I think that is important for civil society. Now, more than ever, when we have to be honest with ourselves, when the region is actually being tested, we are being fragmented by so many issues. Peace and security is one of them, as Mr. Morris has highlighted, but let's not also forget the issue around budget allocation. The community, as it is right now, is also facing quite many challenges in regards to budget allocation due to scarcity of resources. So then I think this is all we have. Brian did the mirror. Who are we? I think this is all we've got right now, and if we don't push these initiatives more proactively and show even our partner states how best we are placed and how best we are coordinated in one voice, I believe that we may not have a very long-standing East Africa community. So I call you all as civil society to action as well, to actually go back and reflect who are we, as Brian has tasked us, but also take into account that we need to see how, and inshallah, maybe we might have a next summit next, and inshallah, maybe we might have a next summit next year. Asanteni sana.
President Yaksov. Is he here? Mr. President? Let's welcome the President as he gives us the closing remarks. That's not what we agreed on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have come to the end of the journey. We start the journey as a family, and I think today it's a closer of the journey. So I'm here to deliver the closing speech. I'd like to say first, I know there's a presence of the peers from Burundi who sit on behalf of our regional community. We see him here because he's a member of the East African community. And also our development partners, EU, German. And I would like to also extend my thanks to you colleagues, friends, delegates, members of the civil society. We are all here as a family of East African community. Today marks a historical day that we are able to succeed to hold successfully our third summit, which is an annual summit. And I would like to take this opportunity before proceeding with my speech to assure you that by all possible means, with crook, down, up, with water, with whatever, there must be a summit next year too. This summit is a culture that must commit ourselves to, and this is a message to our development partners that we're sending early messages that please, as we are coming around with something from our pockets, we hope that we can get something from your pockets. And specifically, my call will go to EU and GIZ. Don't be tired of us. We'll keep on coming to you because we need to build this as a culture. On behalf of the Governing Council of IACSOP, allow me to extend deep gratitude for your participation in this summit. Over the past 3 days, we have shared experience, challenges with one another, and we reframe our vision for a stronger and more inclusive community. This has not been a conference of speeches alone. It has been a space of honest dialogue. We have get encouraged, and we have encouragement, reflection. We have come together, and we have defined the status of ownership of our affairs in our community. Each of us live here not only with recommendation, but also with renewed responsibility. And I would like to stress this, that our national chapters, let's not be only viable when it is a summit. Let's go back home, some of this opportunity to warmly congratulate our executive officer, Lillian. Thank you very much. My brother Suleiman, I keep on renewing that if I have the right to have the pen to extend your presence and your work with us, I will take that. And this I give to the next leadership that will take over the power from me to ensure that you will be with us. This team, their professionalism and tirelessness, coordination, and dedication made the summit possible. Can we clap for them hands? Can they stand up, please? Lillian, Suleiman, can you stand up? We want to clap for you, please, guys. Yes. I know Lillian is out. Yeah. Without you, we couldn't be proud of this. It's because of you, that's why we're clapping for you, the hands. We have convened these 3 days as a stakeholders from our various fields, from our various backgrounds, and I'm quite sure we have shown an exemplary to other establishments like this one, like IACSO. Reflection on the summit journey. Day one reminds us that integration in digital era is about more than systems. It is about trust. Technology must be bridge that connect people, not wall that separate them. We live here clear with right-based, digitalized governance and no longer option. It is essential. So we must be essentially committing ourselves to digitalization of our engagement. They too highlight that peace and accountability and resilience are the foundation of integration. Cross-border communities must never again be left at the periphery. Corruption, illicit flow must be treated as direct threat to our survivable, not abstract policies problems. Communities where minerals are extracted must finally see tangible benefit, not displacement and poverty. And I'd like to stress on this, that when we say we need African solution to African problem, we need also with African money. African soil is not empty. African soil is not empty. We have minerals. That's what I like to say with, and please hold me accountable. Don't hold IACSO accountable for this. My statement is that Africa is rich, but unfortunately, we have corrupt leaders. When they unite themselves, they loot us. When they disagree, they killed us. Unfortunately, we're not gaining from the minerals. Take this statement as a strong statement. And I released it in Nairobi here in Kenya. Day three being about unity. Civil society, government, private sector, and development partners came together to show that integration is not preserved. It's not a privilege of the state alone. It is a project owned by the people, delivered through partnership, and sustained by accountability. So we are all here as a partners. We are all here as a friends. None of us is an enemy. And please don't see us as an enemy. We don't see you as an enemy. We should work all together and commit ourselves to be accountable for the integration of the people of East African community. What this summit teaches us, first, that civic space is the oxygen of integration. We can't be talking about East African community if we don't speak to our leaders, if we don't speak to ourselves, if we don't embrace check and balance. Without freedom of expression, association, and participation, the promises of our treaty cannot be fulfilled. Civic actors, journalists, election observers are not obstacles. They are defenders of democracy. And don't tell us that democracy is a culture of the West. Even in our of democracy we have, it's only somebody translated into books. So it's not something born from anywhere. It's part and parcel of our values. Second, the inclusion is not charity. It is a legal and a moral obligation. So when we talk of inclusion, we are not begging. We are not begging, and we don't want to be given. It is part and parcel of our society. So inclusion is something moral and legal. Youth, women, and persons with disabilities are not waiting for permission to participate. They for permission to participate. They are demanding space. They are demanding space that is rightfully theirs under Article 127 of East African Treaty and international convention such as the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. And my message with regard to disability, I'm a champion of that. Some of you who see our brothers and sisters who have this impairment, sometimes you feel disturbed. I would like to tell you, they have never written an application to God to be born like that. Why are you disturbed while they are very comfortable? Please feel they are part of you regardless of their impairment. So my call is that we must stand up and make sure that our society is inclusive. Third, integration without accountability, it is not an integration. I want to repeat, integration without accountability is not integration. Laws and protocols already exist. What is missing is the political courage to enforce them and the transparency to track progress and integrity to protect resources from theft and misuse. And I would like to urge you, brothers and sisters, as we're going to go back to our country, to our member states, don't think about election at the level of the government. Let us try to scrutinize the political establishment in our region, in our member states. Some of these political parties are just establishment of corrupt leaders that want to take the power of our vote to assume the leaders. And this means we need to hold our leaders accountable. The role of civil society, way forward. Civil society has shown through this summit that it is not an enemy of the state, but a partner in shaping solutions. We will continue to generate evidence, monitor commitments, and encourage governments in constructive, but also we commit ourselves to a firm dialogue. We will keep amplifying the voices of communities, border traders, smallholders, farmers. We stand for the girls, we seek for health, and women, engineers, breaking barriers. I wish one day if God bless us to have a land of Iakshop, you will never contract a male engineer. We need to see our female engineers who are here to build the office, and when generation comes, we say, this building is the skills of our female engineers. And I'm quite sure, Lema, we have been demanding a land in Tanzania for Iakshop. If it happened, me and you, we are not there. Whoever comes from you, who follow our leadership, please, the moment you contract a male engineer, let the power in my voice to God in the heaven, whatever books, that building should crack. But if it's a female engineer, let that building stand tall and strong and show the skills of our sisters. Yes, that is a curse I've already stuck into ballot because their stories are true. And that is a measurement of the integration. Our commitment is to solidarity across borders. And please, that as long we remain in Iakshop, we need to find a dialogue with our IALA members. I don't know what our MPs are discussing where we are looking for food to be flown from somewhere. You have enough food in Burundi, the trader is unable to cross to South Sudan. We have enough for Thailand, we have skillful farmers. So we need to make sure that our solidarity is that we move. These borders are artificial. Let our people move. Let our people trade. We are stronger when we stand together as East African community not divided by these artificial lines or political rhetoric that we are hearing. We are looking forward to make these calls for action. One, let us treat the outcome of this summit not as an end of the meeting, but as the beginning of a new or a renewed action. Two, to governments, seize the opportunity to make integration real in the lives of our citizens by removing barriers, protect freedoms, and invest in the people of East African community. Three, to development partners, stand with us. Development partners, stand with us, not just in words, but in practical long-term support that reach those close to the ground. To civil society, remain united, principled, fearless in defending the vision of people-centered East African community. And I would like to insist here. I have realized in my time of office in Yakso that we have some citizens of East African community among us. When you ask them, how is the politics or how is the situation in your country, some citizen will not take the courage immediately to speak. First, he wants to check in the hall who is around. This is a sense that freedom of expression is not being respected in some member states. My message to our governments, to our leaders, I'm quite sure they'll be hearing us, that the moment you shrink civic space, you are mobilizing us to level you as our first enemy. So we must uphold and respect freedom of expression. Above all, to the citizens of East African community, this is your community, this is your future, this is your voice. You must continue guiding it. Under our watch and our eye, East African community will never collapse. It will progress. Whoever wants to stand against East African community, with the power of our vote, you will never smell your struggle to close this community. This community will continue and will prevail and will be a positive case study. Closing resolutions, we close this summit with one clear message. Integration in East African community will succeed if it is citizen-owned, inclusive and accountable. The pain of one citizen must be felt as the pain of all. Our brothers in South Sudan, in DRC, in Somalia, everywhere, as a citizen of East African community, your pain is our pain. We share it all together. Partner state must recognize as a collective progress for our entire community. As we leave Nairobi, we carry forward not just words, but commitments. We commit to unity, solidarity, evidence-based advocacy. We expect our governments, East African community institutions, and partners to act on those recommendations. And I will volunteer to urge, I know there's nobody here on behalf of the Kenyan government, but I would like to urge the peers from Burundi, you are part and parcel of the institution of East African community. I'm quite sure you're going to deliver. Please, we will urge, if you can volunteer as our ambassador in our midst to deliver all these messages to the leadership of EAC. I know that this will reach to them, but we don't want them to see them as a papers and put them into the drawer. We want to see the new upcoming leadership interacting with the leadership, how to translate these recommendations into action. Finally, on behalf of EACSOP, I thank you all for your contributions, for your energy, for your shared vision. Together, we continue to build a community where integration works for every citizen of East African community, and we all stand up and hold our hands and say, we are sons and daughters of East African community. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. Allow me to take this opportunity to call for a few speeches for a vote of thanks. Neema, I will never leave this space without hearing from you a final word for vote of thanks. After you, then I will come, our brother, the PS from Burundi, to come and give us a closer. Neema, please, come and tell us something. And remember, we are Oliver Twist, huh? Nema, we are Oliver Twist. We need more.
All right. Habari ya mchana. Is it mchana already? Sawa. Thank you so much, everyone. As I mentioned on the very first day, that I just came here to learn and to understand the role of the civil society and to see how to integrate some of the key recommendations and issues to our game changer strategy, the Global Gateway. So yesterday we had very nice kind of conversations, but I really liked the mining thing that we had in the third floor, and I felt like you have a very, very big role to play as civil society to really make sure that the citizens, they do benefit from the integration agenda. So I have all my notes. I can't promise anything. I know we talked it already, but I think, yes, I've been sent here not just to do like the representation, but really I think from what I've been engaged with Lillian and others, whenever I come to these kind of meetings, there are always some follow-ups which we usually do together and to see how we can support the civil society and also engage to the integration agenda in general. So thank you so much. I've really learned a lot from here. See you next summit. She said maybe. For me, I believe it will happen. I wish you all the best. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Nema. Yeah, because of time, we can't call all of them, but can we clap hands for GIZ? So unless GIZ you feel, we didn't leave you behind. Yeah. Ever, even in our member states. Allow me to take this opportunity to welcome the peers from Burundi to come and close for us and deliver for us a word. And you have heard our messages. Some of them are confrontational, some of them are soft, but you represent our community, you represent our leaders. Give us and declare close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All protocols observed. Good morning. Good afternoon. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I'm happy to be here with you for this closing session. I was here from the beginning. I followed all discussions, very rich discussions on the role of the civil society to support states, our countries, to be able to implement programs and projects in order for the fulfillment, the fully ESC regional integration. That's one. The second one, as I mentioned during my interventions, civil society is not the enemy of the state. I can repeat that again. And I believe on it. Personally, yes. Secondly, the civil society organization have to play its right role. That is very important. And the civil society is to complement the government, where the governments have gaps, the civil society there to support, to complement. That for that one, I'm very sure that role is your role, right role, play it That's all. I don't think it will be any problem with that. Thirdly, for sure, we come up at the end of that summit, we come up with the resolution recommendations. And when you set up recommendations, it's very important to implement them. But there is a process. For that one I have to clarify. Here, we're here to discuss for that subject matter, and we go around them and we come up with recommendation. Once these recommendations are set up, the next step is to share, to report, to give that recommendation to the Secretary General Forum. And the Secretary General Forum is the one who will submit those recommendations to partner states. Very important. And from there is a process of those recommendations. And I promise you, I will be the one. Once that process, there is a meeting of experts for the Council of Ministers. This one will be approved by the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers consensus, I will be the one to help to the implementation of them. That's what maybe I can say on what, yeah. Finally, is to thank you, all of you, for your participation, fruitful deliberations, and wish you all go back home, safe home, and greet our brothers and sisters, and I wish you also to meet next year with the recommendation being implemented. I thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The President Yaksov has spoken the meeting for us. Ours is to simply call as in front to do the final group photos and say merci beaucoup and see you in the next conference. I don't know unless my boss wants to say something. Lulu, what do you have for us? Oh, there's lunch. Yes, lunch, and then there's logistics. Lulu, come in and tell us what you have to say.
Have we clapped for the facilitators? No, the way we were taught, yes. Asante, asante sana. Merci beaucoup. Merci, mademoiselle. We thank you very much for taking us through this beautiful 3 days, and I believe that I'm hoping and I'm looking forward to seeing you next year again. Sawa. Don't get tired of me, eh? Msinichoke. And in that regard, I just had a few logistical announcements. Right now, we are going to break for lunch at the same venue we have been at, the restaurant at the second floor. And after lunch, it's one what? Mine says 1:30. 1:17, eh? So we have exactly 1 hour. This is an announcement to the members of Yaksov. Exactly 1 hour, so I hope you're back here by 2:30 immediately for the annual general meeting. It's a closed meeting for members of Yaksov. We slightly welcome observers. I think the president will communicate once we're here, but we'll come back at the same venue for the annual general meeting immediately so that we can wrap up. And also, I know most of you are traveling back today. So I really request that you observe time and turn the program to you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Mine is to say thank you very much to each and every one of you for the last 3 days. I think it's been amazing. Can we confirm that it's actually been amazing? Yes, we can confirm it. We have all clubs. Now all clubs can even run concurrently. But overall, I think we've had a lot of conversation around trade and non-tariff barriers, digital transformation and governance, civic space, human rights and democratic participation, cross-border peace and security, corruption and illicit financial flows, extractive industries and natural resource governance, youth, women and inclusion, and also we've had conversations about accommodating people with disabilities and co-creating solutions, really. We've thought about what partnerships looks like, we've thought about what the EAC region should look like, and most of all, we've thought about regional integration across all these particular spectrums. We've had actions for development partners, for civil societies, academia, media, think tanks, and everybody, but most of all for each and every one of us. Kenya, can I see your hands? Uganda, Uganda, you don't even have a few chants. Somalia, DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, Ethiopia. Is there anybody I have missed in the discussion? Tanzania. Do you know why? I've not forgotten, by the way. I want you guys to also take initiative and say it as well. But overall, it's been great to have representation across all these countries and looking forward to a bigger summit next year. And the call to action from me is each of us should bring 3 people next time for the next summit. 3 people as participants, 3 people as funders. Are we committed? Are we committed? So as we think about our work, let's think about ways of contributing to this space and making it even bigger. So thank you for having me. It's been great facilitating the session.
Thank you. Lunch will be where we took it tomorrow. Yesterday, across, just where we took it yesterday, across. So before we leave, the photos. Thank you very much.
Before we go for lunch, we're going to have photos. 3 sets of photos. We're going to do them across 10 minutes. First set of photos is IACSOF, and the IACSOF, EU, GIZ, government representatives, and the partners that were there. So TI, Kenya, Foundation for Civil Society, YSW, Defenders Coalition if possible, Article 19, Intel Watch. If you're here, please just come to the front real quick. The IACSOF secretary can stand just at the front and then everybody else can gather around. Yes, please. Photographer, we're ready? We're ready? Okay. Lillian, it's you we're waiting for. So we can have some people stand just slightly in front. Please don't leave the room because we're going to have a full photo with everybody. In front, could you stand in front? Front, at the bottom, next, at the bottom. Complete photo. don't move, just stay here, stay here. Now colleagues, come, let's fill this whole space and take the picture. Evans.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 30th day of September 2025. In studio, I have Robert Mbui, Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency. He's also the Deputy Minority Leader at the National Assembly. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.